Hi, welcome and thanks for tuning in to this tutorial on creating a solo guitar arrangement of Days and Wine and Roses. This tutorial is a little more advanced than my All the Things You Are arrangement, so if you're new to jazz guitar, I would suggest going and checking that out first. Days and Wine of Roses comes from 1962, which is kind of late for a tune like this, with fairly standard jazz harmony. The song Days of Wine and Roses was written by Henry Mancini, with lyrics by Johnny Mercer, and it was written for the movie of the same name. There's lots of great recordings to check out, particularly the version on the great Bill Evans and Tony Bennett album. And great guitar versions include Wes Montgomery from the album Boss Guitar, version by Pass and Ella Fitzgerald, and there's a more modernistic take on this tune on Bill Frisell's East West. So this tune mostly contains fairly standard jazz harmony, but it's characterised by the 4 minor in the second bar. This arrangement takes some ideas from the Wes version, as well as incorporating some more modern harmonic approaches. So let's take a look at the arrangement. We begin with a fairly standard drop 2 voicing here, switching quickly to this voicing with the 3rd and 7th, so we can have that moving line going down to the flat 7 of the E flat 7 sharp 11. And then that gives our pinky a little room to play that melody. Going up to this big A minor 11 voicing with the open A string as the root. And then I've just incorporated a little more inner voice movement here. So our E in this chord moves to an F, and then back down chromatically to an E flat, so the flat 9 in the D7 chord. So the melody notes there with the rest of the chord form a F sharp diminished 7 chord, but you can also think of that as a D7 flat 9. So as D7 flat 9 we have the 3rd, flat 7th, flat 9, 5th, and the 7th on top. And that resolves nicely to a G minor 9 voicing here. We have some more voice movement here. Because we end up on a G minor triad, which doesn't have a whole lot of colour to it, I've opted to move the root down to the 6, so we don't always have to have the root at the bottom of these chords. It can be implied. And then moving on, the closed voiced B flat minor major 7 chord. And we have a big jump in the melody here of a minor 6. So if I stayed in this position, it would be a little tricky to harmonise this note just because we don't have a lot of space underneath. So I've opted to jump down to here. So we can have the movement of a B flat minor 7 going to an E flat 7. So let's play those first 8 bars before we carry on. So moving on, the melody forms this long series of ascending quarter notes. So it's really tempting to harmonise each of these notes separately, so I'm going to. So beginning with A minor 7, and then again, the next chord would be a B flat major, So this is just going up diatonically in the key of F, from A minor 7 to B flat major 7. And then this chord is really just an A7, so it's a 5 that's going to resolve to D minor eventually. So it's A7 as in the 3rd, flat 9 and 5th. And then the next note really invites a delayed resolution to that D minor. So I could go and have a little suspension in the melody there. But it's also kind of nice to delay that resolution and have A7 flat 9 and hold that harmony through the beginning of the next bar. And then finally resolve to D minor 7 on the second beat. So from the beginning of those two bars. And then moving on, the next chord is just a D7 flat 9. And then we can stick that D melody note on the top of that. And then resolve finally to G minor 11. So I'll play those two bars again. It's always worth looking out for these situations where you have the harmony resolving a 5th. In this case, A minor 7 to D minor 7, and then D minor 7 to G minor 7. In these cases, you have the opportunity of creating secondary dominance. So in the case of the A minor 7, turn it into an A7 so it resolves strongly to D minor 7, and then change that to D7 so it resolves strongly to G minor 7. In a more simple form, it might be A minor 7, A7, D minor 7, D7, G minor 7. And then you could even go G7 to C7 if you wanted to. So it's worth spending a little bit of time with this next bar here. So what we have here is a completely diatonic melody. Fits within F major, but I've just chosen to harmonize it with some different dominant 7 sounds. So all that's going on here is we have an A flat triad, which fits with that melody note C, and then a G flat triad that fits with that melody note B flat. And those two triads just come from the C altered scale. If you harmonize the C altered scale, you end up with those two major triads right there. And then the third chord, it's just a straight up C13, so it might sound a little strange to go from an altered sound to a more straight up Mixolydian sound, but I think it works quite well. And then the fourth chord here, I'm really just thinking of as a passing chord, getting to E minor 7 flat 5. So this is like an F minor 9 flat 5 going to E minor 7 flat 5. So we have some nice contrary motion there, with the bottom 3 notes moving down a half step and the top note moving up a step. So all together. And then another passing chord coming up. So after the E minor 7 flat 5. So it just happens to have a bit of diminished flavor to it. And then here, there's another suspension in the melody. So we could just play it like that. I kind of like to harmonize it as a G minor. So a G minor triad over the D bass note, moving resolving back to D minor 7. And then moving on, just a standard G13 voicing to G minor 6. And this here is just an easy way to create a little bit more motion. So I'm ending on a C sus, but just starting it from a minor third above, and then to a C7 flat 9. So I'll play those 4 bars. And that gets us into the second half of the song. And I'm just using another little chromatic passing chord here to get down to E flat 7. So E7 down to E flat 7. And then something a little different. So these are all fourth voicings. And they're a little strange because they jump between the Lydian dominant mode and Mixolydian. So some of them have an A in the voicing and others have A flat. So for instance, this first one has an A flat, and then the second one has an A in the melody. And then going back to A flat there. But the structure itself sounds so strong that we can kind of get away with that. So I hear that as a real kind of Bill Frisell sound. And then moving on, more fourth voicings here. So just a passing chord there. And then strictly speaking, this is a fourth voicing as well. But you can also think of it just as chromatically getting down to that D7 sharp 9 flat 13 voicing. So put all those fourths together and we get this. So moving on, we have something that I kind of like to do, which is mixing up unaltered dominant sounds with altered dominants. So we begin that bar on that sharp 9 flat 13 chord, and then go back to an unaltered dominant, in this case it's sus, to a D7 flat 9 chord. Just creates a little more harmonic movement. Just flicking between those unaltered and altered sounds. And then moving on, that resolves to a G minor 9. And I've opted to jump down here to grab that melody note D, just so we can get some more inner voice movement there. So it's the fifth, going to a flat 6, to a natural 6. And then that same B flat minor major 7 voicing. And then jumping down here again, same as before. To this voicing, which is really nice. It's the same voicing as if you play a E flat 13 with a 9 on top, up here, you just take the top of that chord and take it down an octave. That's what you end up with. So you don't actually have the root anywhere in this chord, but it sort of doesn't matter. It's quite a strong sound in itself. So let's play those 8 bars before we move on to the last part of the tune. So in the last 8, we have an ascending melody that's really similar to what we saw in the first half of the tune. And I'm doing a similar thing here and just harmonizing each note. So A minor 7, and again, diatonically moving up to B flat major 7, A7 flat 9, resolving to D minor 7, and then we have a little contrary motion, so the bass goes D, C sharp, C, while the melody moves up. So I'm getting around that by playing D minor 7, A7 flat 9 with the C sharp in the bass, and then it's kind of a voicing of D minor over C. It doesn't have the third in it, but it doesn't matter too much. So and that leads us up to that B minor 7 flat 5. So I'll play that sequence. And then we just have a minor 2 5, so that B minor 7 flat 5 to E7 flat 9. So that diminished voicing again. The 5th, flat 9, 3rd and 7th. And then on the home stretch here in the last 4, I chose another Bill Frisell-esque voicing. So I like the crunch in this one. It has a minor 9th in it between the 9th at the bottom and the 3rd on top. And then just going to the same voicing to harmonize the A melody. And then just simple D minor 7 voicing, G minor 9. And then this C7, rather than harmonizing the A with a straight up C13, all I'm doing is putting the tritone in the bass. So you can think of this as an F sharp 7 sharp 9. I kind of prefer to think about it as it's just a C13 with the flat 5 in the bass. And to me, that's a really strong resolution back to F. So I'll play those 2 bars. So that gets us to the end here, and I've just chosen a little chromatic movement. Going from an F major 6 down to a B flat minor triad, which you can also kind of think of as a G minor 7 flat 5. So in that way it resolves really nicely to a C, the 5 chord, and then to 1. But then the other thing I've done is while that chromatic movement is going on, I'm just keeping an F on the top. And then to the 5. major 13 to finish off. Let's just play the last 8, see how all that fits together. So thanks for watching. I hope you got something out of this. Leave any questions you have below and hit subscribe to stay in touch about more arrangements and theory lessons. Thanks.